So last time I had my lights pointing that way, and it was still kind of in my eyes. Now they're pointed straight into the ceiling. I think the light levels are still the same, but now it's less irritating on my face, so we'll see how that works. This might take a while, so let us begin the DIMMterrogation. BMWSU gameplay has been around my channel for a while, and this comment was planned to go out on my first video, but I wanted to think on it a little more before I put it into an actual video format. In that Q&A I pitched a while back, I mentioned a few YouTubers that I set as like a kind of standard for myself. And he says, I used to be subscribed to almost every one of those tech YouTubers you mentioned, but I've unsubscribed from all of them over time. While watching this video, I thought about it and I've come up with a few reasons as to why that is. 1. Size, and by extension, interaction. Because of your small channel size, I feel like I get a lot more out of watching your videos. When I watch a Linus Tech Tips video, I think, oh man, that was crazy. Must be nice having sponsors that'll help you do that kind of stuff. And yeah, I bet it is. And then I move on. I wouldn't like the video or comment because it felt like it had no bearing on the amount of noise already in the comments, etc. Here, my like accounts for more like 0.4% rather than being 1 in thousands. And every comment I've posted, except one on the last video, has been responded to by you. I got you back. Which is fantastic. If I wanted to ask you something, I know I could get a response. I know a while back when you were trying out your catchphrase, at the end of the video, I suggested a little tweak, and I didn't see anyone else suggest it. And you tried it, and you're still using it. I am. ALittleDIMM. And the fact that me, as a single viewer and not part of a herd, had any effect like that on the channel feels pretty neat. Now for a moment, to play the devil's advocate, if I stick around for long enough to see you become a large and significant member of the tech community on YouTube, that charm that so many smaller YouTube channels have might be lost. But after watching your videos, I feel like even if you were to have 1 million subscribers, you'd care about the people more than the number, than a channel such as Linus Tech Tips. This also slightly leads into point number 2, which I will get to in a moment. I see your point, and I'm hoping this doesn't end up being a problem. I don't feel like my personality will change, but I am worried that I won't be able to respond in the same ways that I used to. And that would be unfortunate, because I look forward to the parts of my day where I see somebody say something in a video and I just get to pop back in and say, hi. Regarding that charm, I hope that doesn't get lost along the way either. The interaction I have with you guys is kind of a big deal to me, and it makes up a large portion of why I keep doing this. So, I'm going to try to hold on to that. Now, point number 2, personality. When I watch one of your videos, I feel like I'm just chilling with you. I get to sit back and hear some god-awful or brilliant puns. Thanks. Maybe learn a thing or two, and take in your words like a normal human being. I don't have to worry about as many idiots, if any, in the comments, or people making overused jokes like Linus sex tips, etc. I don't feel like I have to be part of some in-crowd to get all the jokes and running gags. Now, I can't make promises about the comment section developing overused jokes, but I can almost certainly guarantee that my jokes won't be getting any better. But I'm glad you noticed this. That chill vibe was kind of what I was aiming for. I like the idea of being comfortable to talk to you guys, and I like the idea of you guys being comfortable enough to talk to me in the same way. And I'll elaborate this more towards the end of the video, but for now, on to the 3rd point. Theme. Now this one is a little more subjective, I think, and you think correctly, but I just love your darker videos. I am taking it that way. I like the dark background of your room with the pleasant RGB frenzy in the background. Yeah, I find it's unique, and I personally find it very appealing. I'm glad you picked up on that too. This is intentional. I think the darker environment is a little easier on the eyes, and it's generally more relaxing. Bright things have a lot of energy, and that can be good in its own way, but to engineer that chill environment that I was aiming for, a darker setting feels more appropriate. But it can't be too boring. Something needs to exist in the background to create like a sense of depth, and that's why I put the lights there. Plus, I'm kind of a sucker for LEDs, so... Next note, I do agree on quality way above quantity. I'm already subscribed to a multitude of channels, and I can say that for me, for the channels which upload less frequently, I almost always find their videos more enjoyable to watch. And a final note, I did like this video, so I wouldn't mind more of these every once in a while. Almost no proofreading done, apologies. On your second to last final note, which is kind of redundant, but that's okay, I'm glad you, and many others, are okay with me taking my time in the refinement of my videos. I feel a lot better that way. I don't feel like the pressure that there's gotta be something done now, and if I rush, I get sloppy, and sloppy is not good for the kind of content that I want to put out there. I much prefer the no pressure environment. And don't worry about proofreading, I'm not really a stickler for grammar. Longer comments like these give me better opportunities to explain myself, which creates a better sense of transparency between you and I, and that's important to me because secrets don't make friends, right? Unless you don't want to be my friend, I guess that's okay too. NK Lopez 56 says, "Hey Dimmy." That's adorable. That is definitely the best camera I've seen on a human being so far, but $2,000 is a little steep. You're not wrong. I want to make a vid of me building my first computer and take some high-resolution pics of it. Are there any cameras that can do both that you can recommend in a budget of $400 or less? That's difficult. I recently purchased the Canon EOS Rebel T6 from my mother, and it takes some pretty good stills. That's going to be down in the description, by the way. I haven't played around with it, but the video can do 1080p at 30 FPS, and it does come with a kit lens, so at least you'll have that. But you will still need a memory card. Amazon has the camera with a free accessory bundle, including the card, for $450 US. And you'll be able to find the body and the kit lens on eBay for probably less than $400 if you do some digging. And if you need a little cheaper than that, the T5 is still pretty good. If you're looking for 1080p at 60 FPS, the Nikon D3300 also comes with a kit lens, but it's about $450 on Amazon. Again, for cameras and lenses, eBay isn't a terrible idea. All of my lenses and my camera came from eBay with the exception of the Metabone Speed Booster, which is more like an adapter, but not really. And I bought that from B&H Photo. Stuff's expensive, man. But it's kind of hard to find 1080p 60 FPS on a camera for less than $400. I mean, I'm sure there are some, but I don't know that many. Regarding a new setup show I'm starting called Set Me Up, Raku or Raku HD asks, "Where do I upload pics of my PC? I would love to submit it. Instructions are going to be in the card up here for sending me pictures to put your setup on display. However, I made a terrible mistake when I made that submission video. I got lazy when I was typing out my example submission, and I think other people took that as a free pass to not provide the peripherals and stuff that they're using. So in the example, I said to highlight the shiny things. Now people are just kind of pointing out the unique objects on their desks, which is fine, but I also want to know what kind of mouse, keyboard, headset, headphones, speakers, monitor, brands and sizes, tablets, TVs, consoles, and like any other equipment you might have. Remember, I'm trying to link everything I can in the description of the video, so if somebody sees something neat, they can be like, ooh, I wonder how much that is, and then click on it and just get there. But if I have to search for a product based on what it looks like for every one of your entries, I'll be here until Ed's water-cooled PC is finally done. I'm sorry, Ed. Ed doesn't know me. But I'm sorry anyway. Next, I Like Cake asks, I think this is a question we all want answered. How do you come up with those remarkable puns? And do you hate yourself for being so good at it? If you're worried about pronouncing my name wrong, don't be. It's pronounced I like cake, as in the common phrase, I like cake. Thank you for the pronunciation. I was about this close to saying I licky cakey, which is almost the same thing. I sort of briefly mentioned this before, but I keep a list of all the bad jokes I can think of. As I go about my day, something might tickle my brain in just the right way, and I'll think, oh, that might be funny, and I'll jot down the idea and the context, and I'll develop it into something later. And when the time comes for it to be put to use, I'll toss it in a script and remove it from the list. So I wouldn't necessarily say I'm good at it, because they're not usually just thought up on the spot, but yeah, I do hate myself sometimes. With each video I publish, there is, to some degree, this profound sense of regret that I just put something on the internet and everyone can watch it and go, wow, what a dork. I apologize in advance. Wamim Hussein asks, hey, how are you today? I'm swell, thanks for asking. But I also want to know how all of you guys are doing today, so feel free to let me know in the comments. DTai, or DTHAI17, asks, being relatively new, is it hard for you to get review samples? I only ask because I like your channel and I'm rooting for you to flourish. Thanks, buddy. I have not received any review samples. I haven't even tried asking for any. I don't even know which company or what department to contact. My channel is still kind of young, and if a company were given a choice, they'd probably rather advertise on a channel with, say, 2 million subscribers over a channel with like 2,000. But maybe one day I'll be worthy of review samples. But today is not that day. So for now, everything I review is purchased with my own money for my own personal use. Diamond Dog USA asks, Steve, do you see your channel trending towards hardware reviews or how-to videos like overclocking or part picking or software, etc.? Or some of both? And I'm going to go with a little bit of both. I'm kind of a gearhead, so I love playing with hardware. I've done a couple of software tutorials and I'm not opposed to doing more. And how-to videos are definitely not out of the question. I've had an overclock video planned for some time. I just never got around to actually doing it yet. There always seems to be something of a higher priority taking precedence. So eventually I'd like to get into things like component modding and case modding and water cooling, but that's going to require like a lot of money for me to get the tools and to afford goofing up hardcore. This sadistic individual asks, can you pronounce my name properly in an Indian accent? I can certainly try, but I can't promise you'll be happy with the result, unless you're eagerly awaiting my inevitable failure. At the risk of offending many, many people, Pratamkana? Sorry. Norby.exe, or Knorby, I'm assuming Norby, asks, can you also use the Air RGB fans as an intake, or does that look poo? And I don't recommend it. Unless your case has a transparent panel on the side of the intake. For example, the Corsair Crystal 570X has a tempered glass front panel, so the Air RGBs will look nice there, but the butt end of the fan doesn't allow for much light to pass through. So a top intake would only show you the fan's casing on the bottom, so that would not look so great. Nubinitas Gaming is how I think you pronounce that. He asks, I'm ready to build a new PC. I'm looking at a 6850K, a GTX 1080, for 1440p gaming and streaming at 720p at 60 FPS with all quality settings maxed in XSplit. Should I pull the trigger on this now, or do you think I should wait to see what Ryzen brings to the table before purchasing? I suggest waiting for Ryzen. It'll be either really awesome or a bitter disappointment. Wait a minute. Okay, so I am editing this video right now. I shot this last night, and this morning, February 22nd, the Ryzen NDA was apparently lifted. So I can say with confidence that it looks really good, but it's available for pre-order right now, and it's going to actually be purchasable on either March 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. I can't remember which one, but sometime early March. A lot of people are going to release their reviews at around that time, supposedly. I'm not one of them because I'm too poor right now. But wait for the review within like a week and a half, and then figure out what you want to do from there. If you still don't want Ryzen after all the reviews and benchmarks are out, then what you have looks pretty good. I'm actually kind of jealous. And that was totally awkward and unscripted, and I never want to do that again. Next question is by Kanos, and he asks, are the air fans loud next to you or not? I was wondering, as I might get them for my PC, but only if they are quiet. I use my fans as a top and rear exhaust, and I keep the RPM a little lower to maintain the positive pressure inside of my case. Because I have them set to spin slower, I don't really notice them get loud, though they are audible, assuming everything else in the room is silent. Of course, if you set them to spin at 100%, they're going to get pretty noisy. But otherwise, I don't notice unless I'm specifically listening for them. POV Dave says, I recently read that a workaround to the Kraken not showing up in cam is to simply disable the Windows login screen at boot up. Staying idle at the login screen seems to be part of the problem. I've not installed my Kraken Hue or Air RGB fans yet, so I can't confirm. Unfortunately, I have been unable to recreate the problem, so I can't verify this for myself, but he left me a source link that I'll leave in this video's description if anybody wants to check that out. Now his first question is, why come no Reddit account for your social media? And my answer is, I just don't use it. Not that it's not useful, I have a Facebook, an Instagram, and a Twitter, and I'm not super active on any of those as it is. I monitor them, and I respond, but I don't do much posting on my own. I'll look into making one if I see a healthy demand for it, but otherwise, not really planned. His second question, which he is labeling question B, I've got the COS Pro 4 AAT headphones, but still need to get a DAC or headphone amp. Do you have a couple of recommendations for a quality, budget-friendly, under $150 solution to power them? So my headphone amp is the FiO E07K, and I've been using that to drive my Bear Dynamic DT770 Pro headphones, which also have an impedance of 250 ohms. The amp has bass and treble boost, and it gets decently loud, but it won't split your ears or anything. I believe the E17K is the new version, and neither of them recommend an impedance of over 150 ohms, but it sounds pretty good to me. And they both fall within your budget, so that's cool. Unfortunately, I don't have too much experience with amps, and sound quality is kind of subjective, so I don't know if I can actually make a proper recommendation there. Sorry. Amzo asks, how long did it take you to get used to being on camera or webcam, and would you recommend a webcam or a camera for somebody who wants to get into it? That's kind of hard to say. It was awkward in the beginning when I was doing the Let's Play videos. The hardest part was actually trying to get into the habit of talking to myself, knowing that nobody else was listening at that particular moment, at least. I want to say probably it took 3 to 4 videos to feel comfortable. Between a webcam or a camera, I would say aim for a certain standard and then make your choice based on your budget. So webcams will be cheaper, but they won't really look as clean either. A DSLR or a camcorder will look better, but they're significantly more expensive. And for someone who's maybe not sure if they want to stick with it, I'd say use your webcam, or you can use your smartphone and a little tripod. This way, even if it falls through, you still have a webcam you can use for Skype or video game streaming or whatever else you want. Whatever else cameras do. His second question, the lights in the back, the blue ones, are those RGB light bulbs or a single color? Those over there are RGB. They're Bluetooth bulbs by Magic Light. They're a tad iffy in terms of connection sometimes, but otherwise they work pretty well and they do what I want. Next question, Lars loves tech. I do too. My PC currently has a Z170 motherboard and a single MSI 980 Ti armor. Would like to eventually upgrade and SLI my GPU, but these cards are not made anymore and the only one I can find ships from the USA. I am in the UK, so it's a bit of a bummer getting hold of deleted stock. Do you think it's worth my time going SLI with the current GPU or just to upgrade to the 10 series instead and attempt to sell my 980 Ti? This is a good question, followed by a not so great answer. I am personally not a huge fan of buy it now, SLI later. I've had that mentality a lot over the years, and I find that when the time comes for me to want another card, I'd rather just get the newest generation instead of the older model. SLI has its own issues. For example, some games either have poor or no support for it at all. A single card is usually the more elegant solution since you'll run into less issues that way. And you'll also have to consider whether your power supply can handle it. In the event that you can't get the latest and greatest card to do what you want, which is pretty tough nowadays, unless you're in 4K resolution, then you should look into considering SLI. But if you do that, I would pull the trigger relatively soon. New graphics cards are released like every year, so if you wait too long, you'll end up being in the same vicious circle. As for the latest and greatest card, I am speculating, assuming that the 1080 Ti will be announced within the next month or so. You might want to consider waiting before you start throwing cash at a regular 1080. But then again, there are a lot of other variables to consider, like what resolution do you want to play at, what games do you want to play, what's your targeted refresh rate, among other things. You want to find parts that complement what you already have. For example, a 1080 will tackle anything under 4K resolution at 60 FPS, with max settings pretty much, and a 1070 will handle pretty much any 1080p resolution game perfectly fine. The last thing I want to bring up is not a question from any particular person, it's just a statement. A lot of you are asking me for PC part picker suggestions, and that is totally okay. This was kind of what I was talking about before. I like it if you guys are comfortable enough to just be like, hey, what do you think of this? Or, hey, I'm not sure about this versus that. Or, hey, shut up, nerd. I just want to let you know that sometimes it'll take me a while to look through the build and see if I can think of anything to better suit you or your needs. And it might take me some time to research one product or another. I literally spent 6 hours last Saturday going through questions and builds. Not that I don't want to do it. I just want you to have like realistic expectations. I am one man with below average reading comprehension, bad eyesight, and a tendency to get lost in the lights. Facebook says I can have a badge or something for responding to at least 90% of people within 15-minute averages. Didn't want your stupid badge anyway. So that's all I have for today. If you guys really want to make me look dumb, feel free to structure your question in the format of a tongue twister. That might be hysterical. Like, dislike, leave me questions if you've got them, and that'll help me structure the next video. If you want to help support me, my Patreon link is in the description, but ignore it if you're saving for computer parts. Thanks for watching. My name is Steven, and I am ALittleDIMM. Bye-bye. I keep playing with my lights. I'm still not really sure where I want them. Because of your small channel size, I feel... Why did I stress small? And every comment I've posted, except one on last video, that's been responded to. What? It made sense. It's just what came out of my mouth didn't. And this comment was planned to go in my first video, but I wanted to think on it a little more before I put it into a video format. And it feels like there's something in my teeth. There's nothing in my teeth. The interaction I had, the interaction. It's getting late. I'm gonna blame it on my word comprehension. No, that doesn't even make sense either. I'm just gonna blame it on being tired. I'll elaborate on this more towards the end of the video. The Dimmy threw me off and then I forgot what I wanted to say. That's so cute though. The Nikon D3300? Unless you're eagerly awaiting my inevitable failure. Unless you're eagerly awaiting my inevitable, I can't even pronounce that word. What makes you think I can pronounce your name? I find it kind of ironic that I'm stumbling on inevitable failure. I don't really notice unless I'm specifically listening for them. Let's redo that.